Anthony said, is it true the Saw franchise is done? That is a big news story for tonight, and it's a dark, deep one. Let me go over here to this new website I heard about that it's got all the hottest, cool stuff, and hot men made it. Hot dudes made this website.
Horse joint, smoke a joint, and your luck is going to improve. God damn it. Don't worry about things. He says he doesn't feel very lucky today. Can someone acknowledge it?
I will come over and slowly tickle your butt with a feather if that will make you feel better. However, it does not sound like we're going to get Saw 11, and I f***ed up on that headline. And that's why you should go to trusted news sources and not to us. Bloody Disgusting exclusively reported. They have a source, and if Bloody Disgusting has a source, it's not like, Steve213 has a fucking source on Twitter. It's a real deal. They have somebody that's working on the movie who says it's totally dead. D-E-D, dead. It's 100% over, almost a year now. They said everything went sideways in January 2024, and the producers started fighting. One wanted to plow forward, which who doesn't love a good plowing? And the other, I also misspelled that word. That's great. Said put up roadblocks, and Lionsgate did not have anyone to smooth it over. So this is something that's been in the wings for a while. We talked about this way back in December. Put up a video about it, and Viewer Non way back in August had posted that they were hearing that the problem when they pushed Saw back an entire year, the rights to the franchise are owned by two men in particular, and those two have to agree on everything for it to move forward. This is sounding a lot like Friday the 13th, isn't it? Yes. 3C brought up a great point that way back before that, Lionsgate and Blumhouse entered into an agreement to start remaking Lionsgate's movies, like Blair Witch, which is one that they were working on. His theory was that one of them wanted to move forward with Blumhouse and redo the entire franchise starting from square one. The other one wanted to do Saw 11 since Saw 10 was received so great. They came to an impasse. Now, that's a theory. We don't know. But all we know right now is that those two disagree on something. And apparently, as of now, we're never getting Saw 11.
Well,
ever!
I kind of agree with Greg here. Greg is saying Sax 10, saxophone. It had a great saxophone solo in there. People didn't know about that. But Saw 10 is what I think he meant. Had a good send-off for Tobin. I will agree. I think if it is the end of it, which does suck, I feel like Tobin did have a really good send-off. And I really think that they left it open for Saw 11 to do something really special. But it does beg the question, are they just now going to go back and remake the fucking thing? Which maybe.
Well, I mean, these two are in control of it. So, like, if they're not in agreement, nothing's going to happen with it. Like, no remake, no nothing. Like, it's up to them. And we could literally, it could be a Friday the 13th situation where we never get a goddamn thing.
I feel like, well, yeah, Tobin needs a break. Damn. Yeah, exactly. I think that you can't keep putting it on Tobin's shoulders and moving forward with it. He's getting up there in age. He's obviously not want to keep doing it over and over again. And they have to go into a different direction, which is, I think, at the end of Saw 10, they were trying to, with that little boy or whatever that Tobin Bell's character was going to maybe raise. And I feel like that was going to be the future. They were going to put that on him and like maybe put it where it's like, that's the new Jigsaw. But that's fine. If you want to go back and redo the whole franchise and not do a Saw 11, I'm fine with that too.
And the thing is I don't think it's that Tobin needs a break. I think Tobin would probably be willing to do it because that movie finally got right what they've been trying to get right for several movies, and it got us right back in the thick of things. But this goes back to Halloween 5 when Luke Othello and Olive Garden French fucker was like, I don't care about next movie. I make what I want. When they killed off Tobin Bell's character way earlier in the franchise, they really fucked themselves. So I don't know. But the problem is that he's not going to be acting for that much
That's
longer.
what I'm saying. I don't think it's not that Tobin wouldn't want to come back and do it, but at some point you have to move on from him because he's like, and maybe someone's like Tobin's like 80 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. Remaking, starting the franchise from scratch is one thing. Rebooting it with Blumhouse is another.
No, that's dirty.
Like,
that's dirty dishwater. I don't like that at all. That smells like open sewer around here. If it's got to be somebody other than Blumhouse. If it's Blumhouse, I'm afraid for it. If it was somebody else, I would even take A24. I know I've talked about them quite a bit. I do like them, and I feel like that would be in their wheelhouse. Honest to God, something like Saw would actually work with A24.
I like A24. I'm actually surprised that you like him so much because A24 is the first one that goes and puts a bunch of hot button political stuff into their storylines, you know?
I don't mind certain, like, it depends on the movie, but I feel like generally speaking, A24 is a production company that can work well with something like the franchise of Saw. It fits in what they do well. I think that they tell a really good, I think they tell great stories and then have good, like horror atmospheres around that they build from the story versus like just a bunch of explosions and jizz on the wall. which is what Blumhouse is just doing.
Jizz, European jizz. I do think they were onto something with one of the storylines they did in Saw, where the dude was going after the insurance executives. That's a little too close to home with the whole Luigi Mangione thing that went on. But like, you could take an idea like that if they wanted to go that route and really have something to say in an old school George Romero type of way, not like in a shoehorn 2023 kind of way. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with a Saw reboot. Like, I think it would be good. I don't think it would be good with Blumhouse. And I do think people are disappointed because Saw 10 was going to, they hinted at Hoffman coming back, which would have been rad. They hinted at some cool shit. You know?
I feel like somebody said it correct earlier. They're like, what more can you tell with the Saw franchise? It's true. I mean, that is true. If you're just talking about the Tobin Bell arc, the Jigsaw arc, then yeah, it's pretty much wrapped up with 10. I mean, they showed why he did what he did. They gave a pretty good explanation about why he was like all about justice and balancing the scales. Yeah, they could move on. Here's the difference. Do you guys think a remake, either reboot the whole thing or remake the whole thing, which some people I understand would have objections about that. Like, no. You don't need to retell the entire story because the story was already good. You don't need to retell everything. Or a requel, whereas that you get to make a new movie, but within the Saw universe and still acknowledge that the Saw shit happened, but then start with a fresh character.
See, one thing I think would be interesting is if they just made another Saw movie, and I hate it when they do this, but it would make sense in this particular aspect. Make another Saw movie, call it Saw, just call it Saw, and have what John Kramer did in the past be real. It happened, all that stuff aside, and you got somebody that starts to do that to people. But here's the kicker. He hates John Kramer. And whenever the media and stuff compares him to him, he's like, no, fuck John Kramer. It's like Sylvester Stallone and Tango. I guess Rambo was a pussy. But if he's like, because there's a lot of what John Kramer did that was like, what's the word I'm looking for? Hypocritical as fuck. Like, a lot of John Kramer's like stuff was it. So it'd be interesting if you had a new guy take over who like loathed being compared to Kramer and wanted to outdo him.
People, before you come up in the asshole, I know Dylan and a few other, like, they tried that with Spiral, but it didn't work. Yeah, and forgetting about Spiral, I understand what. Yeah, they did. You're right. They did.
That didn't work for a bevy of reasons.
But I don't think it was because they truly, like, I'm talking about like when they really go in and they're like, okay, we're really going to establish this as this now, and we're not going to do Spiral. Which, by the way, Spiral came out in the middle of them they weren't done with Saw yet. So they had never announced that we're done with the franchise and we were going to go into a different direction. I'm talking about a pure, like you said, make it, just call it Saw. And I'm not talking about do it next year. Like, wait a few years, let it percolate a little bit. Percolations, it feels good, and then you have your tea, and then drop it as Saw.
Yeah, they should leave it on the table for writers to make pitches and say, we're not going to make another Saw movie until something comes across our desk that blows our dick off.
Yeah, it sucks, but again, Tobin Bell has had a great run. He's 80 years old. Like, yeah, it's time to move on. If we're going to do something with the Saw franchise, I feel like we can do that. Either reboot it, remake it, or do a requel. And the
disappointment is that you could have gotten 2 good movies out of that.
Probably, and I would have been fine with him coming back for one more. Like, one, if they were like Saw 11 is the definitive end. Like, that's it. Like, for sure, that's it. Okay, and John's story is over for sure in Saw 11, and then it sets up for the next generation of Jigsaw, which will be that little boy that he was going to raise.
Which I would hate that.
I thought it was fine. I thought that was. I feel like that was a good way if you're gonna keep the franchise going.
You might be right, but there's just something about, like, there's something that screams Shia LaBeouf picking up Indy's hat in that to me. Like,
yeah, that's true. There is some. I mean, obviously, there's a problem that not everyone's going to be on board, but that way, at least you don't have to restart the entire series.
Right. No, yeah. And I just, I don't know. There's something about that kid. That kid, like, the origin story is not strong enough for that kid to become the new John Kramer.
Well, that's why you set up Saw 11. And then
if they've done it.
That's what I'm saying. The training would be involved in Saw 11.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. We watched Jigsaw train before, and that's where he came off the most hypocritical to me. Like, the dude, he basically, like, they made him out to be a fucking, like, super genius superhero, and like half of his logic never made sense. But I'm going into a bunch of issues I have with the deep cuts of the franchise. Either way, maybe it's not the worst thing. I mean, if they did Saw 11 and it was pure ass, then we're right back in the shithole. And then maybe you don't get anything.
Veteran Guardian's like, he's like, I would have liked one more, but glad to have gotten 10. At least Spiral isn't the finale. Yeah, that's true, dude. Thank God. Like, imagine if Spiral was the last one.
So I don't even think that would be that bad.
In the urinal.
Well, like Spiral, like it wasn't great, but like Spiral was a spinoff. I think the worst thing they ever did was Jigsaw. That was ass buckets, in my opinion. Yeah, I can barely remember it either, but I know I fucking hated it.
Let off some steam, Bennett.